Captain Midnight.
This video is brought to you by Skillshare, and it spoils a lot of stuff from Avengers Endgame. So, am I going overboard with the Endgame related videos? You know, maybe. But in its over 3-hour running time, the film just packs in so many character changes and interesting shifts to the MCU overall that I just couldn't resist talking about them. Especially for one specific character, Peter Parker. He's not featured in that much of Endgame, but the film still has huge ramifications for his own series, which we'll all see play out fairly soon. But how could the events of the film be explored and expanded on? And how much of it will just be kind of conveniently sidestepped? That's the kind of question I'm really interested in looking at today, while also just digging into the MCU's Spider-Man in general. So whether it's going to be any good or not, I can already tell that Far From Home is, at the very least, going to be a pretty interesting movie. What first appeared to be a pretty straightforward Spidey Goes on Vacation movie has now been revealed as a film that's going to have to balance a lot of really high concepts and plot points. The 5-year time jump, the death of Iron Man, Mysterio, and apparently the multiverse. That's a lot of material to wrestle with. But honestly, I'm pretty happy that the movie is looking to be a little more ambitious than its first trailer suggested. But alright, let's talk about the one thing that could really trip up the film. That 5-year time jump. I have to admit, I'm pretty nervous about how Far From Home, and really the MCU as a whole, handles this. I feel like they could be staring down the barrel of a problem that has faced the Marvel Universe in the comics more than once. A big event series will make a huge move that the rest of the comics line kind of has to walk back to maintain the status quo of the stories that they were telling. And while I definitely don't want to judge how the movie handles this from the trailer, the fact that all of Peter's classmates, and probably even Aunt May, seem to have been dusted and have just come back is more than a little convenient. Like, I understand why they did this. It allows the series to continue on from Homecoming without having to change too much. That movie established a pretty likable ensemble with that cast, and it doesn't just want to throw that out the window. So they took the only route they had to easily maintain that. And that makes perfect sense, but I do think they could be passing up a chance to do something really interesting with the time jump concept. I hope they pay some attention to the fact that these characters have been gone for years, and that the world around them has probably changed quite a bit, which is something we don't really get a sense of at all from these trailers. One thing the movie does look like it's going to address is the death of Tony Stark and the effect that that's had on Peter. And looking at the reactions online, it seems like a lot of people are actually unhappy with this, especially people who thought Homecoming focused too much on Iron Man in the first place. But I never really felt that way, honestly, and I think Far From Home absolutely has to address Stark's death in a big way. Like it or not, Tony Stark played a huge role in the life of the MCU's Peter Parker. Ignoring his death, especially in a movie that I assume picks up fairly soon after Endgame, just wouldn't feel true to this Spider-Man at all. But I know many of the fans that had problems with Homecoming maybe don't want to hear that because they feel like it's been ignoring Uncle Ben. And I get that, but I also think there's a way that they could work Uncle Ben into this script as well, with Peter really reflecting on both deaths, not just Tony's. And maybe this is wishful thinking, but the Uncle Ben Easter egg in the first trailer may just signal that they're gonna do just that.
The power of Spider-Man in the palm of your hand. Now you can be the ultimate web slinger with the new Spider-Man Web Blaster on a mission to blast the Green Goblin.
But of course, I can't go this whole video without mentioning Mysterio and this whole multiverse thing. Honestly, it's fun to think about, but I'm fairly sure that anything I speculate about here will probably turn out to be inaccurate. The truth is, there's just so many ways they could go with this. But I definitely know that I don't trust a single thing that comes out of Mysterio's mouth. Trickery and illusion is obviously the cornerstone of the character, and I think it's clear that Far From Home wants to do that, but on a much bigger scale than the original Mysterio, who was just a special effects man. This one seems to be a little closer to the Ultimate Universe version, who traveled from the 616 universe into the Ultimate timeline. Also, if I remember right, I think he turned out to be a robot or something. But, something tells me they're not going to go with that. Skepticism aside though, if he is telling the truth, it could open up a lot of possibilities. I usually don't dip into Twitter speculation, but this very vague tweet from the official Into the Spider-Verse account has really got me wondering if Sony and Marvel are actually going to tie it into that movie in some way. That would really surprise me. Like, I definitely don't expect Tom Holland to be running around with Jake Johnson's animated Peter, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit style, but I do think it's possible, if a little far-fetched, that we could get some universe hopping in this movie and maybe get a look at live-action Miles Morales. Whatever direction they decide to take that stuff, I hope they still make sure to really focus on the high school ensemble cast, since I think this group of characters was one of the best parts of Homecoming. This trailer confirms that MJ already knows Peter is Spider-Man, adding to the list of Ned, Aunt May, Captain Marvel, the list goes on. The truth is, secret identities have just never been that important to the MCU, especially when compared to stuff like the Raimi movies. Now, I don't have a huge problem with this, as long as the movie is still able to emphasize how much of a toll being Spider-Man takes on his personal life. Homecoming did a good job with that, so I'm pretty hopeful this one will as well.
Spider-Man 2, the game, rated T for teen.
Oh, and lastly, let's talk costumes. Honestly, I'm glad it looks like the Iron Spider suit won't be playing a huge role. I've never been the biggest fan of it. Like, it's a good event suit for something like Endgame where the stakes are just massive, but I think it just looks a little too slick and fancy for Spider-Man to normally wear. Is that a nitpick? Yeah, it's just kinda something that bugs me. But the movie looks like it's gonna have no shortage of costumes. The Homecoming suit is back, and I'm still a pretty huge fan of that design. But there's also a noir-inspired suit that I think looks pretty cool, and this darker one, which I'm not really sold on yet. I know a lot of people love it, I just don't think it looks quite as good as the classic blue. Still, I'll withhold any real judgment until I really see it in action. Overall, I thought this trailer was really entertaining. Like I mentioned before, I think it sells us on a movie that looks a lot more ambitious than the one that I assumed we were getting. And I'm really looking forward to finally checking it out this July. You know, I am really excited for the movie, but honestly, running the kind of channel I do, it also just comes with a lot of work, trying to make sure I cover it as well as I can. It's hard to always be productive like that, even the days when you're maybe not motivated. If you can relate, I highly recommend Productivity Masterclass, Create a Custom System That Works on Skillshare. Taught by YouTuber Thomas Frank, this class was great at helping me work smarter. We all have those things that we want to take a crack at but can never quite find the time for. That's exactly the kind of situation that this class was made for. It puts you on the path to accomplishing more. Plus, you can check it out for free. The first 500 people to click on the link in the description below will get 2 months of access to more than 25,000 classes on pretty much any subject from photography to art to business and way more. So get started today and go to skl.sh/captainmidnight15. That's skl.sh/captainmidnight15.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes too.